Hello everyone, welcome to Ace with Ease IAS. This is day 24 of 100 days challenge. And today's question is regards unit 7. And if you look at the very familiar question, that is Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, or indirectly asked as language and culture or language and thought. Okay, so like any other answer, here also you need to emphasize upon intro, body and conclusion. So in the introduction, you'll be talking about what is Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, and then present that there is strong version and weak version. Strong version known as linguistic determinism, weak version known as linguistic relativity. So within the body, you'll be writing about Sapir, and then you'll be writing about Lee Worf, how the examples have been used by them to explain. So after writing one view of Sapir and Whorf, you will be writing the critique to Sapir and Whorf theory, and then you will be writing the conclusion. So it is important for you to have all the dimensions in the answer. Okay, so we'll also be discussing this in great detail. Okay, so here you need to understand that I told you right in the introduction, you have to write the definition. So what is Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? It is nothing but it says that the grammatical and lexical structures that are present in a language, it determines your worldview and cognition. Okay, so there are two versions, the strong version known as determinism and the weak version known as relativism. So this part you'll be writing in the introduction, and then you'll move to the body telling that this theory is rooted in the works of Herbert and Humboldt. Okay, so sorry, Herder and Humboldt. So from this, Edward Sapir said that the real world is unconsciously built upon the language habits. Okay, so it is unconsciously built upon the language habits. Okay, so here what Edward Sapir is saying, that whatever the real world you are seeing, it is result of your language. And contrasting to this, okay, Benjamin Lee Worf has expanded the theory that is given by Edward Sapir, and he showed two languages, the Europe language and the Hopi language, and from there he tried to show that language rigidly determines the thought. So here it is weak version, here it is the strong version. Language rigidly determines the thought. Okay, so these two things you'll be mentioning. Then you'll write the examples of color, examples of time, examples of spatial orientation. Okay, so these examples you can use. Okay, so spatial orientation, that means like there are Gugu Yimithir speakers. Okay, these people use only north south direction. Okay, so they don't use the directions with respect to self. So to us, left and right varies, right? So they use absolute coordinates, they don't use left and right, they use only north and south. So this changes how they think in terms of the space. So their spatial memory and navigation are influenced by their language. So you can also use Hopi colors. Okay, so that is done by Worf, and then you can also use the time. Okay, so study that is conducted by Boroditsky. Okay, among the Mandarin speakers. So this you can use. So you'll write the examples, and then you will write the critique to this. So here in the critique, you can use two scholars, that is Steven Pinker and the other is McWhorter. Okay, so Steven Pinker argues for mentalese. Mentalese means universal language of thought. See what Steven Pinker highlights is that you notice the magnetic flux concept. There is complete equations and there is no language at all. So scientists everywhere think in the same way. And at the same time, you also notice that there are people who knows multiple languages. Now, which language is influencing their thought process? So this is what has been questioned to the Sapir-Whorf and it has been critiqued. And then you have McWater who says that you are exoticizing exoticizing the indigenous languages, arguing that their language reflects culture. Okay, so he says that better keep the indigenous languages separate, and language definitely reflects culture, but it does not dictate. Okay, so he warns against exoticizing. Okay, exoticizing the indigenous cultures and languages. So, after writing this critique, you can also write the critique of Noam Chomsky, who talks about universal language. This also you can mention in the critique part, and in the conclusion, you can write that. So, currently, the anthropologist views this hypothesis not as law but as a heuristic for thinking. Okay, so it is used as a heuristic for thinking, for speaking. Okay, that means they're just seeing it as one of the thing, but it is not a law. Okay, so language does not imprison the mind. Okay, so you can write language does not imprison the mind, but influences, influences habitual attention and processing speed. Okay, so this is what you can write in the answer. Okay, so this is first question. So you have to cover all the dimensions. Then we have the next question: mention the major branches of linguistic anthropology and discuss language use in social and cultural settings. Okay, so to this answer, they're asking just mention the major branches. So first you will be telling that linguistic anthropology studies language as a social action rather than mere abstract code. Okay, language as a social action rather than mere abstract code. So after mentioning what is linguistic anthropology, you have to discuss about the various branches. So you can write that it operates through major branches, that is descriptive linguistics, so which deals with the phonology, syntax within the cultural context. Okay, so you'll be writing about descriptive linguistics, then you'll be writing about the historical linguistics. Historical linguistics is nothing but tracking language, how it has changed over a period of time, what are the different families that are present within the language. Okay, then you'll be writing sociolinguistics, so examining the variation that is present within the language. Okay, so it can be because of class, it can be because of gender and various others. And then you'll be writing the cognitive anthropology. Cognitive anthropology also studies the the folk taxonomies. The folk taxonomies are studied. Okay, so you'll be writing this. So after writing this continuation para, you can mention that language use in language use in social and cultural settings. In social and cultural settings is governed by norms, is governed by norms of communicative competence rather than just grammatical rules. See, one important linguist or sociolinguist, or you can call linguistic anthropologist, that is Dell Hymes. Okay, so just you can Google and try to know about him, or you can read about his speaking model. Okay, so Dell Hymes has given the ethnography of speaking. So when you are studying somebody, you should understand them in detail. Okay, so it is important for you to know each aspect of the person who is speaking. So this is a model known as speaking model. Speaking means it is a short form. Yes means so in which setting and which scene. That means physical time and place. So where are you? Are you in living room, or are you living? Are you in the drawing room? Are you in the bedroom? So where? What is the setting that is present there, and what is the scene? Okay. So is it cultural? Is it psychological? Okay. So that thing you have to take into consideration. You should take into consideration the setting in which place you are, what kind of scene it is. Then P means participants. Okay, so who are all involved? Speaker. You should also see that the speaker and the addressee. Okay, so there can be aunt, there can be niece, or there can be other audiences also. So you should take into consideration participants. Then you should also take into consideration the end of that speaking. What is the end? So is it individual motivation, or is it socio-cultural results? And you should also take into consideration the act sequence. Okay, so that means where the story is initiated and what is the climax. That means you should take into consideration whether it's for laughter or is it for applause. Okay, so these all things have to be taken into consideration. I means it is instrumentalities. Okay, so whether it is oral, written, or it is telegraphic. And k here means the key. That means which tone or manner or the spirit of the act that is considered. Is it serious? Is it mocking? So these all things have to be looked into. So he has given ethnography of language. Okay, so ethnography of speaking, not language, ethnography of speaking using the speaking model. So you need not elaborate this, but you can just mention the settings, participants, ends, etc. has to be considered to analyze the speech events. Okay, to analyze how speech events such as rituals or kinship disputes function within a community or function within a speech community. So you can use this as a continuation. So language use in socio-cultural settings is governed by communication or communicative competence rather than just grammatical rules, highlighted by Dell Hymes in ethnography of speaking using the speaking model. Okay, so this will be your continuation para. Then you'll be writing that in stratified societies, language indexes social identity. See, what is the question here? First, it asked mention different branches, and discuss language use in socio-cultural settings. So here you can write that in stratified societies, language will tell you your social identity. Now, in order to support your answer, you can use William Labov study, okay, or you can use John Gumper's. See, William Labov study, everybody might have been noticing because you know the word R. Okay, see, he has studied the class difference in language. So those people who are higher in the hierarchy, okay, and they just differ. Okay, those who are higher in the hierarchy and those who are lower in the hierarchy, they differ with spelling the word R, sorry, the spelling the letter or the post vocalic R. So that means, like, you might have been noticing some of the reels of the celebrities, so how they use the word R at the end. So these studies have highlighted or demonstrated that phonological markers, okay, the phonological markers correlate with the class hierarchy and the aspiration. Okay, so it is directly related. So this is the study of Labov. That means those belonging to higher hierarchy use the word or they use the phonological markers in a different way, and those who are in the lower, they use it differently. And this John Gumper's study, so this was in India only. This was studied in Kalapur, okay, in the rural area. So here there are caste groups. Okay, so you have sweepers and Rajputs. See, they live in the same proximity only, but they maintain the boundaries using the dialect. So the kind of dialect that is used, it is different. Okay, so despite geographically being closer, they maintain the boundaries using dialects. So this will reinforce. They are segregated now. Because of this, they are segregated socially. Okay, the social segregation is maintained by this dialect. And even M.N. Srinivas, who has given the concept of Sanskritization, shows that how lower caste people follow the speech of upper caste or dominant caste to claim higher status. So this shows how your language indexes your social identity. Okay, so even Piri Bodu, okay, Piri Bodu, he says that power, politics, and pragmatics of a language will act as symbolic capital. See, suppose there is standardized language, English or Hindi, which is often legitimized by institutions. Now, because of this, what is happening? Those people who are speaking non standard dialects or non standard languages, now they are facing the symbolic violence because of standardizing some of the languages. So now, because of the power or the politics or the pragmatics that is involved, this is resulting in the social identity differences within the people. And you notice how it is varying. And you can also see the kind of diglossia. Diglossia means within the language, same language itself, you'll be noticing, for example, high Tamil and low Tamil. And at the same time, okay, there is code switching. What is code switching? Suddenly people will change their way of talking. See, if they get into their close people or the people belonging to higher class, they talk in the V code. That means they combine V code. And when they talk with others, they use the they code. That means here they are switching the code according to the social identity. So ultimately you need to understand that. In the conclusion, you can mention that linguistic anthropology bridges cognitive categories. Okay, cognitive categories and macro social structures. By analyzing, okay, by analyzing phenomena like Article 350A, that is mother tongue instruction, that we see the discipline, the linguistic anthropology discipline highlights how language actively constructs inequality, identity, and cultural continuity. So this you can mention in the conclusion. I hope you're clear. The question is asking mention, okay, what are the different branches. So here, if you want a detailed notes on this, so it is present in the IGNO. Okay, so on major branches of linguistic anthropology, the question is asking just mention and then discuss the language use in social and cultural settings. So here to discuss, so you can first mention that, okay, whenever you are trying to understand a language, how it is being spoken, so there you have to consider the speaking model. Speaking means that it is a, now what do you call, acronym. Okay, so here it is to be understood that it is a mnemonic that has been used by the Dell Hymes. So S means settings, P means participants, E means what is the end of that language that is being spoken, or what is the act sequence, whether it what is the initiation, what is the climax. Okay, so what is the tone that is used, the kind of instrumentalities, that means is it written or is it spoken, and at the same time what are the rules that are formed, like used, that N means norms, G means genre. Okay, so is it poem? Is it a lecture? Is it a myth? So these all things have to be looked into if you have to understand. So then after that, you can mention regarding how the language indexes the social identity. Okay, so William Labo, there is a work, right? So the social stratification of English in the New York City. Okay, so there he observes the paradox. Okay, so how the post vocal words or post vocal phonologies are used, so that you can write, or you can write the John Gumper's study, and then you also can quote the MN Srinivas. Okay, so these things you can quote, and you can also mention Pierre Bourdieu, the cultural capital, that means this language which becomes a symbolic capital, how it continues and how this segregation make the people belonging to the non-standard languages suffer. So that also can be mentioned, and you can write the conclusion using that how language can be studied in anthropology, which helps in bridging both cognitive structures and at the same time the social structures, and this gap can be built, and at the same time you can also mention that it helps in understanding how the language perpetuates the inequality, identity, and the cultural continuity. Okay, so this is with respect to today's session, and we'll take up the unit 8. I'll be uploading it very soon. You can watch it. Thank you. If you have any doubts, you can mention in the comment section. I'll be addressing them. Thank you, everyone.